welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, I'm so glad that you clicked on this video. This channel is all about finding and expressing our creative magic. So if that's something that you're interested in, I encourage you to subscribe, stick around, and let's explore our creativity together. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. Please like and share this video so that we can continue to grow the Double Talents family. In today's video, I'll be sharing 5 things I'm doing to relaunch my Etsy store this year. I definitely encourage you to stick around to the end, even if you think you're not interested in Etsy right now, because point number 5 is something that can have a profound impact on your life if you apply it to basically any area. So if you're not familiar, Etsy is basically a marketplace where you can sell all kinds of different products, from physical products like rugs to digital products. And I think Etsy kind of started out, I think it was well known for handmade, thoughtful products by small business owners. But right now, people sell all kinds of different things on Etsy. So if you're interested or if you have any questions about Etsy, you can let me know in the comments and I can respond or make a video about it. So as a backstory, I currently have an Etsy store where I sell digital products. One day I hope to sell physical products, but for right now, with the kind of way my time is set up, I'm comfortable selling digital products that bring joy and add value to people's lives. And I actually launched my Etsy store last year for the very first time in August 2022. I will show you all the stats in the next clip. It basically did not go well. I would say that it was a fail. So here is my Etsy store statistics. I am just going to go into detailed stats so I can show you what happened the first time around when I launched on Etsy. And I'll go right here to all time so you can see from the inception of my Etsy store until now. So our history starts in 2020, and I think in 2020 I just created my Etsy account because I was making a lot of purchases on Etsy. And so this chart right here is just showing the amount of views over time. And you can see that right around here, there's a peak because this is when I actually started to create product listings and started to sell products on Etsy. But that has really gone downhill since about late 2022. So that's after August. I basically haven't done anything in my store since the first 2 or 3 months on Etsy when I didn't have a lot of sales. So a few things I want to point out is the visits, orders, conversion rates, and revenue. So you can see that all time on my store, I only have 3 orders. And I actually have a total of 7 listings on Etsy. That means I've listed 7 products on Etsy. And later on in the video, I'll talk about batch creating and how you need to have multiple listings. So just keep that in mind. I had 7 listings on Etsy and 3 orders since August 2022. And to be honest, 2 of those orders were from my friends, and only 1 of those orders was from somebody I didn't know. So in my mind, this is basically like 1 order. Like, this is not good. Okay. And a very low conversion rate. The conversion rate is basically the percentage of folks who view your products or view your website, the percentage of those people that actually go on to purchase a product. So a low conversion rate means that very few people who looked at your website ended up purchasing a product. High conversion rate means that people who are seeing your product decided to actually purchase. So higher conversion rate is preferred. And you can see that my revenue all of last year was only $30, and with 3 products, $30. I think that this is actually pretty high for how many orders I got, because now that I've done a lot more research and I've done competitor research, I've seen that my products actually had a higher price point than my competitors' listings. So I definitely had way too high of a price for the products that I was selling. So this $30 from 3 products, I think is really good, considering what I was actually selling on Etsy. And so over here, you can see how shoppers found you. So Etsy will let you know what percentage of visits to your stores came from Etsy and what percentage of visits to your store came from your own traffic. So I think that this is really important. So I have 95% of visits to my store came from me. So what that means is that I wasn't getting organic views on my store. So there weren't a lot of people kind of just browsing on Etsy looking for a product who ended up finding my store or finding my products. So that says something about perhaps the way that I was listing my products, SEO, product photos, and things like that. And here you can also see I have high traffic from social media and direct traffic. So I believe direct traffic is people who have the exact link to your store or the exact link to a product that's on your store. And this is basically pretty high because I was like sending my friends like, hey, I just launched my Etsy store. Like, here's the link to my product so you can check it out. And same thing on social media. I was like posting my store on social media. But you can see that when you have a lot of visits and very very few orders, that leads to a low conversion rate. And so I would just say that with the research I've done, I'm thinking a bit more about how I want to market my products, how I want to market my store. Because while it may be nice to kind of share with people that you know, people within your direct sphere of influence, like, hey, I have an Etsy store, check it out. It actually might hurt your store if those people are not your target customers. So you might have people who just want to support you, they love you, they want to see what you're doing, they want to see what kinds of products you're selling, they just want to see what's going on in your store, but they may not be your target customers, and so they're just going to look and not actually purchase anything. And that gets factored into your conversion rate, and that might actually make Etsy factor in that conversion rate and show fewer potential customers your products, because they're kind of taking in the data that, oh, other people that saw these products didn't actually buy it, so why should we put in our resources to kind of show them to more people? I think that's what's going on with that. Okay, so down here shows all of my listings, but I think I kind of already talked about how many listings I have and how many of them sold. So I'm going to hone into the actual time I was active on Etsy. So as you can see, there's some visits to my store. I honestly don't know where these visits were coming from. They're probably me opening my store multiple times on different devices, probably because I didn't have any products just yet. In August, that's when I launched, and here you can see that the visits are shooting up, probably again from 95% visits that I brought from direct traffic, social media, and all of that, and going down in October. So after October, it's basically around 0. So these are the stats. I don't know if there's anything else I can show you. I think that these are really the critical things to look at. So the visits, orders, conversion rate, and the revenue. So like I said, these are not great starts. These are not great stats for an Etsy store, but that is how it went the first time around. So after all of that, I decided not to give up on Etsy. I decided to basically start again, but this time being much more prepared than I was the last time when I launched. So this time around, I have done a ton of research on what it takes to build and maintain a successful Etsy store. And I've basically compressed all of that research into 5 important tips that are really helpful if you're thinking of starting an Etsy store. So you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours doing all that research, because I already done it for you, okay? You're welcome. So let's get right into it. I will share 5 things I'm doing to relaunch my Etsy store. With each point, I'll share what I did in the past and what results I got from that, and what I'm doing differently this time around based on the extensive research that I've already conducted. So point number 1 is taking my time with the research. Yes, I'm definitely taking my sweet time doing a lot of research before launching. I did some kind of research the last time around, but it definitely wasn't enough. It was not enough. Basically, the last time I launched, my research looked like watching YouTube videos like this, and then I was basically watching videos to see whether other creators were making profit selling on Etsy. And once I saw that it was possible to make money on Etsy, I was like, yep, let's go. Let me go ahead and create my Etsy store and start selling digital products. But that definitely wasn't all the research that I needed to do. I would say that there's basically two categories. I'm sure there is like more areas, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to share two categories of research that you definitely need to do before starting out with your Etsy store. So the very first category would be product research. And for product research, this is basically doing research on what kind of product you want to sell and how you want to market that product. So in the past, I basically went from these are the kinds of products I want to create. So I'm going to go ahead and just create them in a vacuum and hope that people would buy my product. But that did not work. It did not work, as you've seen from the stats that I showed. So this time around, I'm doing a lot more in-depth product research. So this looks like thinking about the products that you can create for sure, but then double checking on Etsy to see if there's demand for the product. Maybe there's demand for a specific type of product. So let's say, for example, you're creating digital trackers, and there's a lot of supply for digital trackers on Etsy, but there's a gap in the supply where people want editable digital trackers. So yes, you can make trackers, but you want to know what kind of trackers are people looking for. You can then go ahead and create those editable digital trackers, and in essence, you're filling that gap in demand in Etsy. Another thing with product research is also figuring out your niche. You know, who are the customers that you're gonna be targeting to purchase this product? What kinds of things do they like? What kinds of ways can you market your product on Etsy so that your product listing on Etsy is going to your target customers? Another thing within product research as well is knowing your competitors. So one thing that I'm doing this time around is looking on Etsy to see who are the creators selling the kinds of products that I want to make, specifically star sellers. So I'm looking at star sellers on Etsy and I'm figuring out what they're doing, how they're marketing their product, and basically seeing, is there something about the products that they're selling that I can make a bit better? Are there ways that I can basically learn from how they describe their product, how they take product photos, etc.? So that's product research. If you have any questions on product research or want to see an in-depth video on that, just let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to create that for you. So the second category of research that I think you definitely need to do is Etsy research. And you can apply this to any other marketplace where you're selling, whether it's Instagram or Amazon, but basically figuring out how that marketplace works. Who are the kinds of creators that Etsy shows frequently to customers browsing the website? What kinds of creators does Etsy prioritize? What kinds of SEOs work for Etsy? What kinds don't work? How should you list your product on Etsy? What methods or what kinds of product photos work better on Etsy? All of that in-depth research specifically on the platform that you're using to make you stand out within that platform. So again, if you want to see an in-depth video on the Etsy research that I've done so far, all compressed nicely into one video for you, let me know in the comments, or just let me know if there's a specific question that you have, and I will be happy to answer that. So the second thing that I'm doing to relaunch my Etsy store this time around is batch creating. So when you do your Etsy research, you'll find that you need multiple listings on Etsy for your products to actually be visible to potential customers. I definitely saw this time around. I watched YouTube videos and they said, oh, you need to have multiple listings. But I don't think I understood what that meant. So I thought that, okay, I need to upload 2, 3, 4 products to Etsy. But then when I started looking at star sellers on Etsy and when I started doing more in-depth research, I found that you actually need like 50 to 100 listings on Etsy for a good baseline Etsy store to where your listings have higher potential of being shown to viewers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how is that possible? And you're probably thinking, how am I going to have 50 listings? I don't even have 50 products. Like maybe you're selling mugs, for example, and you have like 10 mugs, like you don't want to have inventory. So basically, a listing is just that. It doesn't mean you have to have 50 products, but you have to list that product 50 times probably. So this works really well for me, or it's helpful for me because I sell digital products, so I don't keep inventory. So having multiple listings can literally be as simple as creating a product in black and then creating that same product in green and listing it as two different products. Same thing, you can create a tracker, for example, and you can use that same tracker but make it editable and sell that as another listing. So bottom line, you need to have multiple listings on Etsy. And initially, once I figured this out, I found it really overwhelming to do all of these modifications on my digital products and upload them. So something that I'm doing this time around is batch creating. Batch creating, I found so far, definitely makes my life easier, definitely makes the process more enjoyable. So when I create something, I just immediately change the colors, change different formats of the product that I created, batch, and I get them ready for upload. And another thing that is really important is you're not only batch creating your actual product, you're batch creating multiple things. So batch creating your descriptions and your product title, batch creating your product photos, for example, because if you're having different listings, you want to have different pictures, for example, different descriptions, different titles, maybe even different tags to basically help you see what kinds of tags, what kinds of keywords help you get customers to see the product that you're selling. So batch creating all of those different things, I think makes the process much more easy. Much easier. Much easier. Okay, number 3 thing I am doing this time around as I'm launching my Etsy store, and I'm looking down because my notes are down here, I'm definitely spending more time on Etsy. I have learned the hard way that Etsy will show your products to more people if they see that you're serious about your Etsy store. And I don't know why, but they measure that by how often you're on your Etsy store. So you'll hear a lot of successful Etsy store owners say that they come in daily on their Etsy store and they're tweaking things, they're changing things. And this can be really minor changes, like adding a message for your followers or your customers to see when they log in, coming in and putting a discount on a product, just basically coming on Etsy, logging on, making some changes, maybe taking down one product photo, replacing it with a better product photo. Etsy basically values that. If you spend time on your Etsy store, they're gonna reward you by showing your products to more people. But I need to say that with this point, it's so important to figure out what works for you. I have a full-time job in engineering, and I really want Etsy to just be a passive income stream for me. And it's not really passive if I'm coming in every day and doing all of this and batch creating and spending so much time on it. So that leads me to the 4th thing that I'm doing, relaunching my Etsy store. So because I've realized that I need to be present on my Etsy store, I need to come in, I need to make changes, and I'm also balancing my Etsy store with a full-time job. The 4th thing I'm doing is creating an upload schedule for myself so that I can come in and upload multiple times a week. And I've already created notes for the little changes I want to make to my Etsy store as I go the rest of the days throughout the week. And with this schedule that I've created for myself, I'm basically making it easier to come on Etsy and upload. So because I've batch created and I now have a timetable for uploading, I can literally come in and spend like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but I already know what I'm coming on my Etsy store to do. Rather than coming on the store, because you know that Etsy values you being present within your store, and then looking around and seeing what you can change and things like that, I've decided to create this schedule for myself and basically specify everything I'm going to do, whether I'm uploading 3 times a week and then the rest of maybe 2 other days in the week, then I go ahead and tweak my description or take down some tags, add some new tags to my product listing. So here is the 5th thing I am doing to relaunch my Etsy store. I hope these tips have been helpful for you so far. Let me know if you have any questions about any of them. Let me know if you have an Etsy store, if you're interested in starting an Etsy store, and if you're interested and you don't have one right now, what kinds of products would you sell? Okay, so number 5, this is definitely something that I think is such an important thing to have under your belt. I am changing my mindset. I think that this is so important. When I started my Etsy store, I was so excited. I've been creating digital products for years, but I was finally launching my Etsy store, and I just had different expectations. I was kind of expecting, okay, sure, like I'm not going to be able to replace my current income with Etsy in like a week, but I'm still going to be having some sort of income. But as you saw from the chart, I didn't really make any sales and I was really discouraged. The reason why it's taken me so long since August to decide to come back is because I was really discouraged. But I think it's very important to keep in mind that Rome was not built in a day, to keep in mind that it takes time, dedication, effort, and resilience to build and grow a successful business. And I think that having that mindset shift is very helpful, because that's what's going to help you keep batch creating, keep coming in and uploading listings to your Etsy store, keep coming in and making changes, keep doing research, even when you're not getting sales for the first couple of weeks or maybe even months. Having that mindset that it takes time to build is definitely going to help you keep growing. And I think having that mindset also helps you keep going, because you realize, okay, it's not necessarily that my products suck, or it's not necessarily that nobody wants to buy my products, but maybe I just need to do a little bit more research. Maybe I have this great product, but it doesn't have great demand, and so I can do some more research to basically see how to meet the current demand. Or maybe my product is great, but there's so many people doing it, and I have to look for creative ways to add some uniqueness to my product, or to do something that other creators haven't done yet, but people would really need. So I think that this is a good mindset to have for Etsy, but also for anything that you are doing. There is seed time and there's harvest. You plant a seed, you don't get fruit the next day, okay? You have to keep watering, keep adding nutrients to your seed, and then one day you have a beautiful tree with fruit to share with everyone. So if you have a store, I want to know what tips you have for people who are just getting into the Etsy space. Definitely put them in the comments. If you have any questions on Etsy, put them in the comments as well, and I will answer them. If you'd like to see a follow-up video on how my Etsy store is doing after the relaunch, I think I'll be happy to make that. Hopefully I can prove that all of these tips are really helpful, and there's a big difference with my Etsy launch this time around than last year, but fingers crossed. So thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up so that YouTube can know to share with other people who may have the same interests. If you are new to my channel, definitely subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know whenever I post. All right, everyone, have a wonderful week.